Welcome to F-Bomb Friday. I'm your host, Tracy Preston, along with my husband, Todd. Hey, hun.
Hey, baby.
Are you ready?
I am ready.
Let's hit it. Grosse Ile is the largest island in the Detroit River. While it is a quiet, upscale community today, the shallow, tangled wetlands of the Hennepin Marsh Preserve along its edge hide an old and terrifying creature legend. There are places in Michigan where the trees grow so thick they swallow the daylight, where the water lies so still it reflects the sky like polished glass, and where the mud remembers every step ever taken into it. Grosse Ile is one of those places. It's nestled in the Detroit River. This peaceful island is known for its beautiful neighborhoods and winding roads and tranquil marshlands, but hidden beyond the reeds and cattails, where the fog clings low to the water and strange sounds echo through the darkness. Locals have whispered for generations about something, a creature, neither man nor beast. Is it an undiscovered animal? A spirit tied to the island's forgotten past? Or just another Michigan legend born from fear, fog, and fertile imaginations? Today, we're wading into the murky waters of one of Michigan's strangest and least known cryptid tales. That's right. On today's episode of F-Bomb Friday, we're talking about the Grosse Ile Marsh Monster, also known as the Mud Walker. Now, before we talk about monsters, we need to talk about the island, because Grosse Ile isn't just another Michigan community. It's a place surrounded by water. And water has a way of creating legends. Now, the island sits at the southern end of the Detroit River, just before the river opens into Lake Erie. Technically, it's a collection of islands and marshes, a landscape carved by glaciers, rivers, and centuries of changing water levels. Long before neighborhoods, bridges, and roads connected Grosse Ile to the mainland, there was a place of forests, wetlands, and winding waterways, a place where humans were visitors. The Potawatomi, Ottawa, and Ojibwe peoples lived throughout the Great Lakes region for generations before European settlement. The Detroit River corridor served as an important route for fishing, hunting, trade, and ceremony. Like many places throughout the Great Lakes, stories passed down through indigenous traditions reflected a deep respect and sometimes fear for the natural world. The forest had spirits. The waters had beings. The unknown places, well, they had names. Now, it is important to say this carefully. There is no confirmed indigenous legend specifically identifying a marsh monster here. There is no ancient story that says a monster lived in this exact marsh. But the environment where this modern legend exists is the same kind of landscape where countless Great Lakes stories were born. Remote wetlands, fog-covered waters, creatures heard but rarely seen. Places where the boundary between the known and the unknown feels remarkably thin, and that matters because folklore doesn't always begin with an ancient tale. Sometimes it begins with one person standing at the water's edge, hearing something, seeing something they simply cannot explain. The wetlands of Grosse Ile are a perfect setting for a monster story, don't you think? The island contains protected marshland, wooded wetlands, and winding waterways where wildlife thrives. And when you think about a marsh, you need to understand something. A marsh is never empty. It's alive. Alive with things we don't always see. A person walking near a marsh at night might hear a splash from something moving through the water, a sudden crash in the reeds, a deep call echoing across the open wetlands, movement that seems much larger than the animal responsible. A normal animal can become something terrifying when you only see pieces of it. A deer standing upright for a moment, a large bird moving through the fog, a muskrat, a beaver creating a disturbance in the water, a shadow slipping between the trees. The human brain is designed to recognize threats, especially in the darkness, especially when you're alone. But then comes the question that fuels every monster legend. What if not every story is a misunderstanding? Now, unlike some legends that have been documented through decades of newspaper articles and eyewitness reports, the Mudwalker exists almost entirely in the realm of local rumor and modern folklore. That's fascinating, because many Michigan legends follow the very same path. Someone sees something strange, someone tells a friend. Years later, no one remembers exactly where the story began, but everyone remembers how it made them feel. The Grosse Ile marsh monster seems to follow that very pattern. Residents and visitors have shared stories of unusual noises coming from the marshes, strange shapes moving near the water, and sightings of something large enough to make them question what they were seeing. Now, their descriptions vary, another hallmark of folklore, but certain details appear again and again. The creature is often described as hulking, an amphibious cryptid standing roughly, get this, 7 feet tall. Yeah, you heard that right, 7 feet. Its body is slick and hairless and coated in thick black river sludge tangled with reeds. Now, beneath its translucent skin, witnesses claim they can see dark veins moving underneath. It has webbed hands ending in jagged bone-like claws. And according to legend, the creature lives deep within the sucking mud of the Detroit River channels. It is said to prey on late-night waterfowl hunters and fishermen. The Mudwalker supposedly waits just beneath the surface of the marsh, completely submerged, except for its large, milk white eyes. So it waits, silent, motionless, until someone steps too close. Then it erupts from the mud with explosive speed, grabbing its victim and dragging them beneath the thick marsh to suffocate. Local warnings even claim that if you discover a large pile of fresh, ice-cold river muck mysteriously placed on the hood of your truck, the mudwalker has already picked up your scent. Most accounts, however, are far less dramatic. They simply describe someone seeing something large or hearing something they couldn't explain. Some stories simply say there's something out there. And honestly, those might be the creepiest words in any monster story. A creature with recognizable characteristics can eventually be explained away. Something unknown, something unnamed. And that leaves room for, imagination. When people picture a monster sighting, they usually imagine the same scene, right? A clear night, a witness, a creature stepping into view, a moment where everything changes. But real folklore rarely happens that way. Most encounters are fragments, shape, sound, a movement. Oh, God, that feeling. Someone catches only a glimpse, and their brain desperately tries to answer one question. What in the hell am I looking at? Witnesses don't always say they saw a creature. They say they saw something. And that distinction matters. When someone says, I saw a bear, they've already explained what happened. But when someone says, hey, listen, I saw something I can't explain, that's where legends begin. Like many modern legends, the Mudwalker exists in an interesting place. It was never an old newspaper sensation. It isn't a famous creature with decades of documented investigations. No, instead, it's something much more organic. It's a local whisper, a story passed around. It's a have you ever heard about kind of legend. And honestly, those are some of my favorite stories to tell. Because once a legend becomes too polished, too famous, sometimes the mystery begins to disappear. But when a story stays in the shadows, when no one can point to where it began, then that's when imagination moves in. The marsh does not rest. Now, let's put on our investigator hat just for a minute. The most reasonable explanation is that people are seeing ordinary Michigan wildlife and under unusual circumstances. A large animal partially hidden, a strange sound amplified by the water, creature glimpsed for only a few seconds. Yeah, it happens. Humans aren't particularly good at identifying things in poor conditions, especially when fear gets involved. Now, here's where cryptid fans get to have some fun. Could there be an animal living in the marsh that people haven't identified? Biologically? Possible, but extremely unlikely. Michigan is one of the most heavily studied states in the country. A large unknown land animal surviving near Grosse Ile, well, would be incredibly difficult, but an animal behaving strangely. An escaped exotic, a rare visitor. Those possibilities are much easier to believe. Then there's another story. Maybe the monster isn't a creature at all. Maybe the monster is the marsh itself. Every generation looks into the darkness and fills in the blanks, right? The reeds move. The water ripples. Something calls from the distance. And humans answer those moments with stories. Because that's what storytellers do, right? But sometimes the legend becomes more powerful than the truth. After walking through the history and the landscape, the rumors, and the possibilities, we finally arrive at the question everyone wants answered. Is the Grosse Ile marsh monster real? Well, that depends on what you mean by real. If we're asking, is there documented scientific evidence of an unknown creature living in the marshes of Grosse Ile? Well, that answer is no. There are no verified photographs, no physical evidence, and no confirmed creature. No official investigation proving something unknown is hiding among the reeds, okay? But if the question is, have people looked into those marshes and genuinely felt like something was watching them back? Well, now that's much harder to dismiss, isn't it? Because legends aren't built solely on proof. They're built on experiences. A person standing beside dark water, a sound they can't identify, a moment they can never forget. That's how folklore survives. Every great legend is connected to the place that gave it life. The Mothman belongs to an abandoned industrial landscapes and lonely roads. The Dogman belongs to Michigan's deep forests. Lake monsters belong to ancient waters. And the Grosse Ile marsh monster, although far less famous, belongs exactly where it should, at the boundary between land and water, the place where civilization ends and nature begins. That's why the legend works. Not because of the creature itself, but because it represents a feeling. The feeling that something unknown is always just beyond our reach. The thing about monsters is that we expect them to announce themselves, and we expect them to roar, and the loud footsteps, and the terrifying moment when something finally steps out of the darkness. But some monsters just don't work that way. They remain hidden. They exist in the spaces between what we know and what we don't. In the movement beneath black water. In the ripple of a marsh that should be still. In reeds that rustle. When there is no wind. So we map the land. We build the roads. We shine lights into the darkness and convince ourselves there are no more mysteries left to find. Well, nature has never agreed. The forests grow back. The waters, they keep their secrets. And the marsh remembers. Maybe the Grosse Ile mud walker is nothing more than a shadow mistaken for something else. Maybe it's a story born from fog and fear and imagination. Or maybe there are still places in Michigan where something ancient slips quietly through the cracks somewhere tonight as the sun disappears beyond the Detroit River. It's then the marsh will begin to change and the birds will fall silent. The fog will crawl across the river, and somewhere beyond the last light from the shore, something is moving, but you never see it. You may never hear it, but if you ever find yourself standing alone beside a Michigan marsh and the darkness feels like it's watching you, remember this. The most frightening thing in this world are not always the things we find. No, sometimes they are the things that find us. We stepped into the shadows of Michigan and uncovered a legend buried beneath mud, water, and whispers. But before we leave, the Mudwalker asks one final question. When you look into the darkness, are you absolutely certain that something isn't looking back? Well, hun, where in the world did you dig this one up?
Oh, I had to do some digging, or should I say dredging.
Right? So how'd you come across this story?
I was on the search for very obscure urban legends in Michigan, and I came across a plethora, and some of them were just junk, couldn't really find anything on. This one had some meat to it, so I dug into it, and it's very localized. It is only surrounded in this area, and the stories really only get told between the local people and, family and friends, but it's been going on for a few generations now, and to me it's very reminiscent of the creature of the Black Lagoon.
Agree.
And also the Dewey Lake Monster. Big difference with this story is it didn't have all the hype like it did back in the 1960s with the Dewey Lake Monster. But I kind of like it. I like it that way. I like the small town lore a lot better, the feel of it, because it makes it more personal, I think. Once a story gets really big, like the Dewey Lake Monster, it loses a little bit of its mystery.
Agreed. And anything with water, near water, surrounded by water, that always deepens the mystery.
And anything having to do with swamps and marshes, that just fuels the creepiness vibe, because we've had the story of the Dungeon Lake Witch, so that's creepy. And there's a lot more tied to that area too, so we might revisit that because there's even more legends within that same area. But again, the swamps, that gives you the creeps right from the get-go.
Truly. And a 7-foot tall amphibious cryptid.
Right.
Slimy.
Yeah. And this sucker wants to jump out at you and take you down to the sludge and muck and
bury you like an alligator buries their prey.
Right.
Or their victim or food. Yeah. Right. Well, great story, hon.
Well, thank you.
You want to sign us out?
I sure do. You better lock your doors. You better lock your windows. And you might want to check under your bed.
So thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. And we will see you again on Malice Monday for the start of Season 13.
Ooh, the dreaded 13.
Lucky 13.
Oh, yes, of course. Lucky. We will see you on Monday.